Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Red Shadow's favorite games. I am, of course, the Red Shadow, and this is pretty exciting. We're down to the last two videos that I'm going to do in this series, and then should be officially wrapped up. With, of course, me leaving like the door open to if I play a game in my collection that I've never played before or barely, really got into, and I end up finding that it ranks up there with some of the games that I mentioned here before, and of course there'll be a future video at some point. But for right now, this is the official list, and this is the second to the last one. And of course, I am talking about a specific game in this series, but the series as a whole, this would be Tomb Raider, with probably actually two games that I'm going to highlight the most. That would be Tomb Raider 2 and the most recent installment in the Tomb Raider series, which was the reboot that came out early last year, I believe it was. But anyway, as I like to do, I'm going to show off my collection of games in this whole series, and this is going to take a little while, so let's just jump right on into it. We're going to start right at the very beginning. The first Tomb Raider game on the PlayStation 1. I have a greatest hits copy, but this was relatively cheap, I do believe. This is where it all began. This is an amazing game in its own right, but I do give the nod to Tomb Raider 2 as being my favorite game in the series, at least on level with the most recent reboot. This is the one that to me was like, okay, Tomb Raider had a really good concept, then they improved on it, added some things, had some really new and diverse world locations to explore as Lara Croft, and I think it really excelled. This was the game that kind of really kicked it all off for me. So then, of course, there was Tomb Raider 3, which was another good game. Enjoyed it. I guess when I think about this one, I think about it being like exceptionally dark, not in terms of the tone, but actually in the levels themselves. There were just some areas of it that were very dark and almost creepy because of it. So then there was 3, and then, and I guess I better make sure right here and right now that I've got these in the correct order in terms of release date. 1998, 1999. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place here with this. 2000, okay, yeah, so I got them in the right order. So the next one that came up was The Last Revelation. They scrapped the numbering system and decided to give them their own little subtitles like this. Last Revelation, I'm not sure if this is the one or if it's the one that followed it. But somewhere around either this game or the next game in the series was when they added like backtracking into it. You would go to a level and do a bunch of stuff, and then you'd have to go back through areas that you'd been through before, which is a very modern concept now. Lots of games do that. But as far as in this series is concerned, it was either this one or the next one that introduced that. I feel silly not having looked into that before I sat down to do this. But that's The Last Revelation on PlayStation. I also have Last Revelation for the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast controller is not necessarily my favorite when compared to the PS1 and 2 controllers, but visually this game looks better than the last game, and that's why I have Chronicles for the Dreamcast as well. One of these days I will pick up all the versions for all the different consoles they were on, but for right now, as far as my collection is concerned, I just wanted to have at least one copy of every main console game, so that if I ever wanted to sit down and just play one game after another, I would have a way to do that. So there's Chronicles. Now after that, the series jumped on to the new platforms. Well, Dreamcast was the same gen as PlayStation 2 games, but I still have a hard time thinking of it in that way because it came out so much earlier than PS2. This is the Angel of Darkness. This is probably the worst game in the entire series. I've played a little bit of it. I guess for me it was just a matter of I was super confused as to what to do. It was so different from previous Tomb Raider games. It was hard to get a handle on how to control it. So then we went to Tomb Raider Legend. Now this was a little bit more like the original games, intended to get a lot more acclaim for, you know, going back to the basic formula, but in making major improvements on it, and definitely getting out from under the shadow of this game. So that's Legend. Then the next game that came out in the series is a game I have on yet another console, because there were at least a couple of them that were cross-platform. But this is Anniversary, and it's on the Xbox 360. Tomb Raider Anniversary, if I recall correctly, was basically inspired by, or it's even kind of a remake of the original Tomb Raider game, but done with the power of the 360 engine, or the engine of the current gen at that time. I played a little bit of it. It was pretty cool. It was hard to compare it to the first game, though. It just was different. And they came out with Tomb Raider Underworld. I have this one on the 360. This one was okay as well. I think I might have actually completed this one. Okay, now we're going to jump really quick over to the PS3, because I have the Tomb Raider Trilogy, which is Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld for the PlayStation 3. Once I got my PS3, I was like, I have to have this one to have those games on the PS3 to be, you know, back with the comfortable controller in my hand, and plus it was cheap, and I just wanted to add it to the collection. And then that brings us to the most recent game. This is kind of a highlight of my collection. Then I'll have two other games to show you that are kind of offshoots, kind of weird games. Anyway, this is the new remake. This would be the other part of this, the focus of this video, which is on the remake version of Tomb Raider that came out early last year. Kind of a reboot. I guess I shouldn't say remake, it's a reboot, because it goes back to a younger, more realistic Lara Croft, explores how she came to be. It has a modern tone to it, with like reality TV aspects to it, and it was a very, very fun game, very, very entertaining game. I'll talk more about that here in a minute, though, because I wanted to finish showing off stuff. I didn't buy just the game version of this one. I actually had this pre-ordered for the collector's edition. It comes in this big tin, and it comes with survival tin, double-sided island map and poster, CD soundtrack, weapon pack DLC, 3 iron-on badges, and a 5x7 lithograph, and then of course my favorite part of it is the 8-inch Lara figurine. Problem is, I don't display a lot of that stuff because I just don't have what I find to be the best accommodations for displaying figurines. I have a few figurines in my collection, but they're all in their packages like this. And I can't even take this out to show this to anybody in this video, because I had a friend of mine over last year, and I took this out to show it all off to him. And in this thing, this is a sad thing about this kind of stuff. This is a metallic tin, and they use these little pins here on the hinge to open the box. And this particular one right here, that pin has slipped out. I don't know if you'll be able to make it out on there. So if I open up the box, the lid to this tin is very, very loose, and it's very hard to get it all back together. So disappointing that they kind of go cheap on those, but I'm sure as many collector's editions as they had to manufacture, it was probably just a cost thing. So be it. Alright, 2 more games, and then I'll show you the strategy guides, and I'll talk a little bit about Tomb Raider 2 and the reboot. This is my Sega Saturn copy of the original Tomb Raider. I don't have a Saturn. I think I talked about it in my personal gaming history. I briefly owned a Saturn for like 24 hours. It didn't work and I had to return it. But this was something I just bought a couple years ago because I wanted to add it to this whole collection. It just seemed like a nice little oddity to have. And there's quite a few Tomb Raider games on handhelds and other consoles that aren't that expensive. So it's one of my collecting goals is to have all the Tomb Raider games that I can pick up, at least US releases. And then, in the same vein as that, I even have a brand new and unopened N-Gage copy of Tomb Raider starring Lara Croft, a specially made Tomb Raider. I guess this is basically, from looking at the back of it, I would say it's the first or the second game remade for Tomb Raider, or remade for the N-Gage. I haven't opened this because obviously there's no real reason to. I don't have an N-Gage. I don't know if this would still work on an N-Gage. If I got an N-Gage for like 10 or 15 bucks, I'd probably open this up and give it a shot. Okay, let's jump into the strategy guides because I got quite a few of them and a story to tell with this first one. This is the official strategy guide from Dimension Publishing for Tomb Raider. I mean, this goes so far back as it shows here, PC, PlayStation, and Saturn version. This strategy guide goes for it. If you notice the wear on there, the fading and stuff, this is my first strategy guide. Of all the things in my collection that I have not gotten rid of over the years, my first strategy guide I ever bought was the strategy guide for Tomb Raider, and this is that copy right here. This has got me through many a sticky situation in the game, and to me this is one of the best ways I've ever seen a strategy guide done. Each little panel has a little description underneath of what to do, and it's in steps. You know, they're numbered, and they tell you what to do to find the secrets and how to proceed through the levels, how to take on the enemies that are found within. And if I had a strategy guide before this, it's long gone, but I'm pretty sure this is the first strategy guide I ever purchased, and I've never gotten rid of it, amongst all the other things over the years that I have. Okay, now I have the Prima strategy guide for Tomb Raider, for the original game. I actually have 2 copies of those, so maybe one of these days I'll do some sort of a giveaway or something like that and part with some of my doubles in my collection. This is kind of cool. This is also Prima official strategy guide for Tomb Raider, but if you flip it over, it's also a Prima official strategy guide for Tomb Raider 2. 2 books in one. Then I have that Dimension Publishing strategy guide for number 2. This is in a cellophane wrapper. That was just how it was sent to me when I purchased this recently. Now we have the Prima's official strategy guide for number 3. And this is yet another book that I have 2 of. I don't know how it is that I keep ending up with doubles. I guess I just don't pay any attention. This is the strategy guide for The Last Revelation, also the Prima guide. This is for PC and Sony PlayStation, so apparently there may have been a separate one for the Dreamcast. Might bear looking into at some point. And here's my Prima strategy guide for Chronicles. This one is for the PlayStation, PC, and the Dreamcast, all in one for this book. This is another really cool one that I really like. This is the official strategy guide for the Tomb Raider Collector's Edition. I'm guessing that this might have been some sort of a box set that included 1, 2, 3, Last Revelation, and Chronicles, because this, although it's a small book, has strategy guides for all 5 of those games in it. It also includes something I hadn't touched on yet, but there's an interview with Angelina Jolie, who starred in the 2 Tomb Raider movies that came out in the early 2000s. I looked through my movies and I couldn't find it. I thought somewhere in my movies I had a double pack of the 2 movies together. I'm not a super big fan of those movies. I thought Angelina Jolie was a great choice for the role, but the movies themselves just didn't capture the essence of the TV show in any way, shape, or form. Alright, so jumping into the Angel of Darkness strategy guide. Prima strategy guide there with a giant poster. What poster's still in here? Oh, tore out. And then, unless I just overlooked them, I don't seem to have strategy guides for Legend, Underworld, or Anniversary. So we jump right to my limited edition strategy guide for the new game. This is one of those hardbound books. It also came with a piece on the back that had a necklace in it. I don't think you can see it anywhere on the cover, but there's a necklace that kind of plays into the storyline here. And it came with this strategy guide when I pre-ordered that, and it's here. I have it. I just didn't grab it. Okay, so that was all of my collection. So now I'm going to talk about the two games that, like I said, are my highlight titles from this series. Starting with Tomb Raider 2. Like I mentioned before, this game had expanded worlds, in my opinion, better detailed worlds, more colorful worlds, more fun stuff to do. You can't probably see it very well on the back here, but there's snowmobiling, here's boat riding, there's some shark action going on. It just had a nice combination of places to go. I'm going to read this here real quick. The unstoppable Lara Croft is back in Tomb Raider 2. Join Lara in her quest for the dagger of Xian, reputed to possess the power of the dragon warrior monks and crazed cult members. Plot against Lara as she travels from the remote mountain peaks of Tibet, the canals of Venice, and even to the bottom of the sea. Explore new worlds: Tibet, China, Venice, and a sunken ship. Arm yourself with automatic pistols, harpoon gun, rocket launcher, M16 rifle, Uzi, shotguns, flares, and more. And kill or be killed by warrior monks, yetis, jaguars, great white sharks, killer eels, rabid Dobermans, and more. More ambitious and complex than its predecessor, says Newsweek. Game of the Year, says PS Extreme. Today's hottest game character, says USA Today. That's one thing that should be mentioned on this, although maybe it doesn't need to be mentioned at this point unless you're really young and you just don't know this series. But Lara Croft was like one of the first characters from gaming that really broke out in the mainstream. Similar to, say, like Mario and Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and characters like that, but because she was more realistic, I mean, except for them boobs, she was a lot more realistic a character than most of those, so she really broke out into like the mainstream media, and of course there was the movies that came out, so I mean, this was a big deal for a long time. And another thing that kind of sets her apart from the Marios and the Links and all that kind of stuff was she was a female character that hit it big and didn't get buried. She was, you know, tough and voracious, and she was, you know, rich and independent and a jet setter and all these kinds of things, and she could take care of herself. She wasn't the damsel in distress and all that. I mean, that's the main thing to take from Lara Croft. It was a depiction of females in gaming that hadn't been seen very often. Anyway, this was just a great game to me. It was back in the 90s, so many people were, Super Mario 64 is the first 3D game ever, it's so amazing. It was the first 3D game in that respect. It was an amazing game. It was a trendsetter, you know, it was innovative. But for me, for this guy, and for most Sony fans, this was the first 3D game that we really encountered. Lara Croft was our hero. Lara Croft set the stage for so many more experiences to come in gaming. Over Mario, who in my opinion by the 90s was already getting stale / oversaturated. Not to say that all this doesn't prove that Lara Croft got that way at some point too, but I'm not, no hate against Nintendo or Mario fans, but for me this was the game that really set the stage for 3D gaming, and it was all on the PlayStation. It wasn't to be found on Nintendo consoles for me, beyond things like the Legend of Zelda games, Ocarina of Time and whatnot. So anyway, now we're going to fast forward several years to this game that came out last year, the reboot. Not a big fan of reboots. I'm already on record as saying that, and yet this one really blew me away. I loved how serious it was. I loved how you got to watch Lara Croft grow up, basically, before your eyes over the course of this game. The knock against this game, I guess that's the direction I want to go now. the knock against this game is that there wasn't a lot of tomb raiding. It was mostly shoot and stealth kind of things, and some exploration. But as far as the tomb raiding was concerned, it was optional. And when you would go to raid a tomb, what it would be is, instead of, you know, like in the early Tomb Raider games, the entire level would be the tomb. In this game here, it was kind of open world type design, and the tomb would be something where you'd see a marking on a wall, and you'd be like, oh, okay, well, I can go down in here and solve some sort of a puzzle of some sort, and gather some knickknacks, basically, and accumulate it for the sake of an achievement. But ultimately, it wasn't doing a whole lot for the story or for the game itself. So that's a bummer, but even with all that being said, this game was amazing. I really enjoyed it. It was a thrill ride from start to finish. The voice acting was great. Like I said, the character development was great. The story was interesting, but, you know, these games, that's one thing about the Tomb Raider games. It's always been pretty much about her, and not so much what you're doing. So, maybe a person might disagree with that assessment of it, but I've always thought the Tomb Raider games seemed to focus around Lara Croft, which was why, you know, a game or two into it, it was called Starring Lara Croft, and later on, like, Adventures of Lara Croft. They knew where they were going with this from the beginning, and they certainly didn't hold back. But anyway, the Tomb Raider game series and Tomb Raider 2 plus the new Tomb Raider reboot are in there amongst my favorite games of all time. Hopefully, if there's anybody out there who is watching this who's a PlayStation fan, hopefully you've had a chance to play Tomb Raider. I'd love to hear some opinions on what people think about the series, and Lara Croft as the star and all that. And so yeah, anyway, a lot of memories to be had right there in this big old pile of stuff. So this is it, guys. The second to the last video. Only one more video to come. My favorite game of all time. I don't know how long I'll talk in that video, or if I'll break it up into parts. I imagine I'm probably going to talk a little bit about it. Then again, I might surprise myself. It may not be all that long of a video. But anyway, I've rambled on enough. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in that next video.